So we're here after stage 4 of the Tour of California, and I'm here with the Cannondale-Garmin team, and why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, my name's Alex Banyay. I'm a mechanic for Cannondale-Garmin Pro Cycling Team. And yeah, stage 4 at Pismo Beach.
Cool. So, what's your role with the team?
I'm the head mechanic in North America for the team, and then obviously I work quite a bit in Europe as well, but yeah, my day-to-day duties are, more or less same as the rest of the mechanics, making sure the bikes work and the riders are happy.
So what would you say is the hardest part of your job?
I think primarily the toughest thing about the job, especially after you do it so many years, like my 12th year on the road, is probably the time away from home. When you're younger, it's a little easier, you enjoy it a bit more, but yeah, as you get older, the time away from home, your friends, your family, and the travel, that's probably the toughest part, I think, definitely.
Have you developed any special techniques to help you with post stages and that, to kind of help speed up the process or anything like that?
I mean, definitely in this job, you have to be efficient with your time in all parts of it, depending upon whether it's in the race or after the race or before the race or even the prep up to the race, which is some of the most important parts of the job. I think that the most important thing for time at a race is making sure that you're prepared before you go there. And then, routine is super important, which comes with experience. You just kind of want to always keep in the same routine, and that also keeps you kind of safe too, because you know that you're doing all the same stuff and that's worked for however many years, But yeah, experience and just trying to be efficient with your time, and of course having the right tools makes a big difference as well.
So the one question everybody wants to know, what's it like hanging out of a car at race pace and trying to fix a bike, and what is it typically that you're doing on a bike?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times, you could be fixing anything from pulling like a plastic bag out of somebody's rear wheel to adjusting a derailleur. That used to be more common in the days when the groups were mechanical. Now with electric, stuff's a lot more, I would say, from day-to-day basis, it stays the same. Yeah. If you have to change a rear wheel, yeah, definitely sometimes the brake needs to be adjusted, or there's all kinds of different things, that could be going on, from adjusting a guy's seat. I mean, in terms of hanging out the car, sometimes it's mellow and you're not going super fast, but I've definitely been hanging out of the car doing 100K an hour in Flanders, and yeah, it can be a little sketchy because you don't see what's going on, and I think as you work with the riders over a longer period of time, the same riders, they also know you. So in the classics, for instance, when I'm hanging out of the car or whatever, the riders will actually be yelling at me if something's coming because they know I'm not looking at all.
Develop a level of comfort.
Yeah, I think definitely, and for sure every mechanic does stuff differently, but you got to do what works for you. But the most important thing for me when that's going on, that I always tell my riders, is that they keep both hands on the handlebars and they don't touch the car. I think it's safer, and yeah, it's just not good to not have two hands on the handlebars.
Yeah.
For sure, it can get sketchy. I mean, You don't ever want to be touching the front of a rider's bike hanging out of the car, then it could get ugly real quick.
So the pros, we know they spend a lot of time on their bikes. How picky are they about their bike setup?
Yeah, I mean, I think in any sport where you're dealing with the top level athlete, that they're going to be picky, and rightly so. If they don't have what they need to be successful, then that's already for sure a huge problem. I don't really feel like the riders are picky, at least when I'm dealing with them, or the work, because my standard is hopefully higher than theirs. And then, you don't really have to stress on them being picky or not, I think if you're doing your job to a really, really high standard and you're being super detail oriented on everything, then it really doesn't afford them the luxury of being picky. I don't really feel that any request is out of line when you're dealing with a guy who, in theory, could win the Tour de France or Paris-Roubaix or whatever. If I'm the mechanic for the world champion, yeah, I'm gonna put new handlebar tape on his bike every day because he's the world champion, Yep. So I think that stuff's it's super important at this level. I think it'd probably be the same in tennis or golf. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, of course they're picky, but they should be.
Yep. So how much input do you have on wheel choice day to day, would you say, and kind of how do you go about choosing which wheels go on the race bikes on any given day?
Yeah, typically either myself or my boss, Jeff Brown, the head mechanic of the team, depending upon, you know, what race we're at. If I'm with him or we're separated, we would be the ones typically would choose the equipment. We have input definitely from the sports science staff on the team with wheels and gearing and tires and all that kind of stuff. But I think, you know, after you do this so long, you definitely have experience. I mean, I definitely, before I go to a race, look at all the stages and look at the parkour and figure out, like, you know, for instance, California, figure out what wheels are going to work for each day and what gearing I need. So I go prepared, you know, and have all that dialed. Definitely that can change a little bit depending upon the weather, what tire size you want and stuff like that. But, and then if you're at a race, you know, like the classics, though, we're going to pretty much use the same wheels through that entire campaign until we get to Paris-Roubaix, where that's a specific wheel and a specific tire just specifically for that race.
So one last question, what would you say is the most rewarding part of the job?
Yeah, I think the most rewarding part definitely is just being able to, you know, work on bikes all the time that are worth $1 gazillion pretty much. I mean, if you're, you know, a bike mechanic, you want to be a race mechanic, you know, obviously you want to try and be at the top level. I'm lucky enough to be at the top level and do the top races in the world, and it's something I don't take for granted. You know, I think that's probably the most rewarding part, and then having a nice victory with your friends and your colleagues is a really nice feeling. Definitely, I've been fortunate enough to experience that as well. And yeah, I mean, that and traveling, you know, if you like to see the world, for sure, it's cool. I've seen it. It's good. Check it out.
All right, thanks, Alex.
Yeah,
we appreciate
pleasure.
your time.
Thanks so much.
Good luck with the race.
Cheers. Right on.